What if you could see your departed loved one last time? What if you could tell them everything you never got the chance to say? In South Korea, these what-ifs have become a reality through the power of virtual reality technology. But as we open this Pandora's box of digital afterlife, we're forced to ask, is this a comforting balm for grief-stricken families, or are we venturing into ethically murky waters? Our story revolves around Jang Ji-sung, a South Korean mother who experienced every parent's worst nightmare, the loss of a child. Jang's daughter Na-yeon was just 7 years old when she tragically passed away from blood-related diseases in 2016. For 3 years, Jang and her family grappled with this devastating loss, trying to find ways to cope with their grief and keep Na-yeon's memory alive. Now imagine for a moment what it would be like to lose a child so young. The pain, the unanswered questions, the feeling that their time was cut short. This was the reality that Jang and her family faced every day. But little did they know that an unexpected opportunity would arise, offering them a chance to see Na-yeon once again, albeit in a very unconventional way. Now, this is where our story takes a fascinating turn. In 2019, a South Korean documentary team approached Jang with an extraordinary proposal. They wanted to use virtual reality technology to create a digital version of Na-yeon, allowing Jang to interact with her deceased daughter in a virtual environment. Now, you might be wondering, how exactly would that work? Well, the team used photos, videos, and memories shared by Jang to create a 3D model of Na-yeon. They scanned a child actor to serve as the base for Na-yeon's avatar, and used voice actors to recreate her voice. The result was a virtual representation of Na-yeon that could move, speak, and interact within a digital world. Jang stands in a green screen room, wearing a VR headset and haptic gloves. As she puts on the gear, she's transported to a virtual park, a place that held special memories for her and Na-yeon. Suddenly, from behind a pile of wood, a small figure emerges. It's Na-yeon, wearing her favorite violet dress and carrying a pink purse adorned with characters from the movie Frozen. Na-yeon's virtual avatar speaks, "Mom, where have you been? Have you been thinking of me?" Jang, her voice choked with emotion, responds, "Always." It's a simple exchange, but one loaded with years of love, loss, and longing. Throughout the experience, Jang attempts to reach out and touch her daughter, only to see her hands pass through the virtual figure. For Jang, this virtual reunion was both heartbreaking and healing. She had the chance to see her daughter again, to hear her voice, to celebrate missed birthdays. It allowed her to say the goodbye she never had the chance to say in real life. In the documentary, we see Jang's remaining family, her husband and 3 other children, watching the interaction on a monitor. They can't see Na-yeon, but Jang's emotional reactions are enough to bring them to tears. Jang described the experience as feeling like she had a nice dream. She expressed happiness at seeing even a slight reflection of Na-yeon, despite knowing it wasn't truly her daughter. Now, as you might expect, public reaction to this project has been mixed. The documentary struck a chord with many South Koreans and garnered millions of views online. Many viewers were moved by Jang's emotional reaction and the innovative use of the technology. However, not everyone was on board with the concept. Some critics, like media columnist Park Song-hyung, argued that the broadcaster was taking advantage of a vulnerable mother for the sake of ratings. They questioned the ethics of using a child's death as a subject for a television show. This controversy highlights the delicate balance that needs to be struck when dealing with sensitive topics like grief and loss. It also underscores the need for careful consideration and ethical guidelines as we explore new applications for emerging technologies. Now, let's take a look ahead. What does this project mean for the future of how we deal with grief and remember our loved ones? We're already seeing other applications of technology in this realm. Some companies offer services to preserve a person's social media presence after death, creating a kind of digital memorial. Others are working on AI chatbots that can mimic a deceased person's communication style, allowing loved ones to have text conversations with a digital version of the person they've lost. As these technologies advance, we might see more immersive and interactive ways of remembering those who've passed away. Perhaps in the future, people will be able to create detailed digital avatars of themselves before they die, allowing their loved ones to interact with these avatars after they're gone. But with these possibilities come some important questions. How much is too much? At what point does holding onto a digital version of someone interfere with the natural grieving process? And how do we ensure that these technologies are used ethically and don't exploit people's emotions? These are questions that society will need to grapple with as the technology continues to evolve. It's likely that we'll see ongoing debates and discussions about the appropriate use of such technologies in the years to come. Let's consider this from a psychological standpoint. Grief is a complex and deeply personal process. Everyone deals with loss differently, and there's no one-size-fits-all approach to healing. Some psychologists argue that this kind of virtual reunion could be beneficial in certain cases. It might provide closure for those who didn't get to say goodbye, or help people work through unresolved feelings. The controlled environment of VR could potentially allow for therapeutic experiences that wouldn't be possible in real life. However, others caution that relying too heavily on virtual interactions with deceased loved ones could potentially hinder the grieving process. There's a valid concern that it might encourage people to cling to the past rather than learning to move forward with their lives. Now, it is worth noting that in Zhang's case, this was a one-time experience, not an ongoing interaction. This limited exposure might strike a balance between providing comfort and avoiding unhealthy attachment to the virtual representation. As with many aspects of mental health, the impact likely varies from person to person. What's helpful for one individual might be harmful to another. This underscores the importance of approaching such technologies with caution and perhaps under the guidance of mental health professionals. It is also important to consider this story within its cultural context. South Korea is known for its rapid adoption of new technologies, but it's also known as a society with strong family values and traditions surrounding death and remembrance. In many Asian cultures, including Korean culture, there's a strong emphasis on filial piety, respect for one's parents and ancestors. This often extends to elaborate mourning rituals and ongoing remembrance of deceased family members. When viewed through this lens, the virtual reality reunion could be seen as a modern extension of traditional ways of honoring and remembering the dead. Instead of visiting a grave or keeping a photo altar, this technology offers a new way to maintain a connection with lost loved ones. However, it is also worth noting that this technology represents a significant departure from traditional practices. Some might view it as disrupting the natural order of life and death, or as an inappropriate use of technology in sacred matters. These cultural factors likely play a role in how this project was received in South Korea and how similar technologies might be viewed in different cultures around the world. As we wrap up our exploration of this topic, let's take a moment to consider the ethical implications. This project raises a number of important ethical questions that don't have easy answers. First, there's the question of consent. Na-young was a child when she passed away, and couldn't give permission for her likeness to be used in this way. While her parents made the decision, it raises broader questions about who has the right to recreate a person's image and voice after they're gone. There's also the issue of emotional manipulation. While the intent behind this project seems to have been positive, there's a very fine line between providing comfort and exploiting grief for entertainment or technological advancement. Another consideration is the potential for addiction or unhealthy attachment to these virtual experiences. If such technology became widely available, could it lead to people becoming overly reliant on virtual interactions with deceased loved ones? Finally, there's the broader philosophical question of how this technology might change our relationship with death and memory. Does the ability to recreate lifelike virtual versions of the deceased change the finality of death? And is that a good thing? These are complex issues that will likely be debated for years to come as this technology evolves and becomes more widespread. But we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. How would you feel about using virtual reality to interact with a departed loved one? Do you see this as a comforting tool for healing, or does it raise concerns for you? If you found this topic as captivating as we did, why not join us for more deep dives into the cutting edge of technology and its impact on our lives? Hit that subscribe button to stay in the loop with our latest videos. And don't forget to tap that bell icon too.